What should I do with my play?
Your wife would look lovely in this.
I could have anything down my trousers. Your mother loved you.
Why does it hurt so much?
Chiefest and greatest calamity of our age.
Yes, Frodo, that's right. If it wasn't enough that the Hobbit trilogy was a complete disappointment, if the disastrous Rings of Power isn't low enough for you, we're now set to have yet another on-screen Middle-earth empire courtesy of New Line Cinema and Warner Brothers, and I'm here to tell you it's going to be absolute shite. My name is Tarai and welcome to the channel. For anyone who hasn't amber heard, David Zaslav recently announced on an earnings call that a deal has been brokered between Warner and Embracer to make multiple films based on J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings and Hobbit books. The same books which have already been defiled not once but twice in the last decade. And if that doesn't fill you with excitement, I'm sure the reason why we're getting new Middle-earth films, which Warner refers to as Lord of the Rings films, a period of Middle-earth's history equivalent to a cup of sand on the beach, will. You see, Warner posted a $2.1 billion loss in Q4 2022, mostly attributed to write-downs and restructuring costs from its merger with Discovery. This included a $217 million loss from streaming services, with Zaslav commenting that cyclical headwinds and ongoing secular challenges hit Warner's linear advertising business, and that last year, 2022, was the year of restructuring, and 2023 will be a year of building. It's estimated that Warner is now seeing $4 billion in cost savings due to the merger, and Zaslav has spoken about the need for more film franchises to make profit. Embracer said through an official release that they're thrilled to embark on this new and collaborative journey, bringing the world of J.R.R. Tolkien back to the big screen in new and exciting ways. They plan to honour the past, look to the future and adhere to the strongest level of quality and production values. They go on to comment how the combined 6 films earned nearly $6 billion in box office worldwide, how this agreement is one of several industry partners that are jointly transformative, whatever that means, and that this specific partnership aims to create long-term value for Embracer Group, with limited effects in the short term.
One more word at you, I swear you're gonna get a smack!
I mean, if there's one thing that comes through from that announcement, it's that Warner Bros. Discovery and Embracer are clearly doing this for all the right reasons. The sheer passion they show for Middle-earth is nothing short of inspirational. Understandably, large corporations focus on numbers and performance in official announcements. But the real value in any Tolkien IP is not in the number of stories you can tell, it's the impact those stories can have on audiences when they're adapted correctly. The focus and excitement of this announcement should be that the works of Tolkien's are such amazing stories, meaning Warner now has the perfect opportunity to create a faithful adaptation of Middle-earth and build what no one else can. No studio owns the right to such rich and intricate lore. The world that Tolkien created feels as though it's real because it was written to fill the void of Britain's lost oral folklore by a master of language and Northern European mythology. There are hundreds of amazing characters, eras, civilizations and themes to cover here. If they approached these films with the same dedication to telling Tolkien stories as New Line did with the Peter Jackson trilogy, then Warner has a shot at creating something hardcore fans and general audiences will love, thus earning the profits they desire. And please, for the love of God, I hope the words new and exciting aren't synonymous for woke and bullshit. But this is Hollywood we're talking about. They haven't once mentioned anything along the lines of having a passionate team of creatives and a clear vision of where to take the franchise. How they love the source material and feel compelled to share this passion on screen. They don't even talk about the potential for telling stories which will resonate with audiences long after the initial release date, as the original Peter Jackson trilogy did. Instead, they drone on about how the vast, complex, and dazzling universe dreamed up by Tolkien remains largely unexplored, and in the same sentence continue to gloss over the scope and detail lovingly packed into Lord of the Rings trilogy as if it were an afterthought.
Don't worry, Sam. Rosie knows an idiot when she sees one.
Even casual viewers recognise that this was a critical component of what made those films successful, but the multinational conglomerate responsible for making them can't. The only time they even mention Middle-earth is to focus on box office returns, long-term value, and production quality, which is a clear intention to create more
Stuff and things.
for us to consume as part of more
Stuff and things.
across an ever-expanding portfolio of on-screen
Stuff, Lori. Thanks.
Terminology like this makes me feel physically sick when it relates to an IP I'm deeply passionate about. Even more worrying is ambiguous phrases like new and exciting, honour the past, and look to the future. Words which really reassure me that we're not about to see the next shameless cash grab, or even worse, the next Game of Thrones Season 8,
Well, Danny kind of forgot.
The Last Jedi, or The Rise of Skywalker.
Hope you fix that surge.
I mean, Middle-earth is literally an anthology of past events. The only way to honour the past of Middle-earth and the Lord of the Rings trilogy is to tell the stories as they were written by Tolkien. There is a throwaway line about how they understand how cherished these works are, but if that were the case, then you wouldn't be milking the appendices of 4 books which have already been adapted into 6 films and a 5-season streaming show. These are cherished works, from a goat among authors, not a blow-up doll to be passed around studios and at will, with no regard for the messages and themes which make the stories so compelling to begin with.
Oh Lord!
Another reason these films will be nothing like the Peter Jackson trilogy is that the language used to market them is no different to every generic blockbuster of the past 10 years. For example, Rings of Power focused on a massive budget and its woke political agenda. Avatar on a CGI love fest that is Pandora. Jurassic World saw the cast and crew going on and on about the number of dinosaurs we'd see on screen, and every single child's wildest fantasy, the Sticky Moloch.
Mosasaurus, T-Rex, Baryonyx, Carnotaurus,
Carnotaurus, Dinoceratops.
We had to make the frame bigger.
Digimoloch.
We just all love this Digimoloch.
Wow, man.
In each instance described, the result was a failure to build compelling characters and story arcs. Franchises where a focus on short-term spectacle, novelty, and being current completely derailed long-term storytelling and ultimately lost audience interest over time. And on the topic of losing interest, hello everybody, I hope you are enjoying what you've been watching so far. Thought I'd take a quick pause in the video just to say if you are enjoying it, please hit the like and subscribe button. I've just moved home, so I'm pretty conked out, as you can probably see from how terrible my I look right now. I've been working super hard in my business and doing this in my free time, so it really would mean a lot to me if you are able to hit the like and subscribe button. And back to the video, thank you. Why should we be excited about seeing new films if all you have to say about them is they'll have great production value, and there'll be lots of them? Even the way the news broke that Warner is making new Lord of the Rings movies like it was some triumphant moment that we'd all be championing is infuriating, and it really pisses me off. They speak as though they're announcing guaranteed success just because they've acquired the rights to make new films set in Middle-earth. I'm sorry, but that's just not how it works. It reeks of corporate entitlement. Nobody asked for more Middle-earth films, and definitely not under the pretext of a major studio needing more franchises to make a profit.
It has to stop now. You're bringing down the collapse of Western civilization.
When we got the news that Marvel was building a cinematic universe, culminating in the first Avengers film in 2010, it was pretty much every single comic book fan's dream. All we'd seen before that point were disparate, unconnected solo films, and shoddy adaptations of team-based comics like Fantastic Four and the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Even X-Men, as much as I enjoyed the first 2 films, still left a lot to be desired.
Do you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning?
Oh, hell no!
So when we finally got a high-budget, non-goofy ensemble lineup with the Avengers, it came off the back of 20+ years of organic demand and excitement that one day we'll finally get to see multiple heroes on screen together for a crossover event. But this announcement is a joke. I think I speak for many Tolkien fans by saying that after the Hobbit movies, Middle-earth just felt burnt out. And considering the ongoing failure of Rings of Power, it couldn't have come out at a worse time. Another red flag is Embracer describing the deal as jointly transformative. Warner now has the rights to merchandise, live performances, films, games, and live attractions. Anyone can take a glance at Disney's rape of the Star Wars franchise to see where Warner's future plans for Middle-earth may be heading. That's right. Think overpriced hotels and theme parks. Think exploitative use of Baby Yoda. Think ramming crappy merchandise down our throats, most of which still sits unsold literally years after its release. In short, there's absolutely no external forces or alternative motives that could possibly interfere with the creative process of telling the best Tolkienian stories possible.
Not the cap.
And this leads nicely onto my next point. Forget about not being able to trust Hollywood with legacy IPs. Hollywood isn't capable of handling any IP with respect. Studios routinely make stupid decisions around plot and characterization, even when they have the right people in place. For an example, look no further than the studio's interference with the Hobbit trilogy. Guillermo del Toro was set to adapt a 304-page book into 2 films. It would have faithfully followed the plot of The Hobbit, incorporating Tolkien's themes and more fairy tale-like aesthetics. The studio, however, aka Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema, caught wind of this and decided that Del Toro's vision just wouldn't do.
Obviously.
What The Hobbit required was the following, and because it's such a long list, I'm actually going to edit this and fast forward it. To replace Del Toro after 2 years of pre-production with Peter Jackson, supported by Philip Boyens and Fran Walsh. To look and feel exactly the same as The Lord of the Rings. A female elf in a love triangle, to relate to women. A 3rd film, to be a direct prequel to Lord of the Rings, even though it created countless plot holes and was never written to be a prequel. To cover every single word in the appendices at least thrice. Making shit up. Legolas, Azog being back from the dead. Alfred, the mayor. Endless CGI. More endless CGI, just time constraints. Over-the-top action scenes. A 45-minute battle. CGI die-in. For Bilbo to be a side character in his own film. For Balon to be relegated to a cheerleader. Orcs, and even more orcs. Sauron. A year-long gap between Smaug flying out of Erebor in Part 2, only to die literally 10 minutes into Part 3. For all the above to be created in a chaotic rush to meet release deadlines. On the flip side, when studios need to interfere and rein in their creatives, they do the complete opposite. Case in point, Thor Love and Thunder. Thor Ragnarok was an enjoyable film and is my favourite of the franchise. However, the warning signs regarding its use of comedy and tone inconsistencies were clear.
Foundations are still strong. Now those foundations are gone.
Shut your damn mouth!
Where characters like Grandmaster provided emotional relief and immersed viewers into the world of Sakaar, other characters like Korg consistently stole attention from emotionally charged scenes. 1 minute Thor's homeworld, people and friends are being decimated and murdered at will. He's struggling to come to terms with the death of Odin and reconcile with his brother Loki. Fast forward a few seconds and Thor is a butt of a stupid joke or being a complete goofball. Bruce Banner is talking about
The devil's anus!
and everyone's acting like they're on spring break.
For the boys?
Yeah.
For the boys.
Hell yeah.
This is where they needed to rein Waititi in and exert some control. Instead, he was allowed to run riot with Thor Love and Thunder because Thor funny from audiences, and the result speaks for itself.
Shut your damn mouth!
Finally, the tonal inconsistencies aren't only limited to Thor. It seems like every film franchise just needs to be funny nowadays, and it's always at the expense of plot, tension, and well-developed character moments. Imagine if one of the orcs ran away screaming like a girl as the riders of Rohan charged across the Pelennor field. If Merry shouted, "You go girl," as Eowyn killed the Witch King. Or the fell beast at the Nazgul ride clapped like a chicken. That's the level of stupidity that we consistently witness in 2023. And Warner is a studio that's been butchering the DCEU, coming from a lifelong Marvel fan here, since 2013. So I really don't have any faith that they're somehow going to be able to pull off a really amazing adaptation of Tolkien films here. And finally, the main reason why I believe this entire franchise is going to suck is that it's way too soon to be producing more Middle-earth content. Every time Middle-earth has been put to screen, it has been cheapened and diluted. The Lord of the Rings is a near perfect film trilogy based on one of the most compelling stories ever written. The bar is set so high that to come even close to matching what those movies did to cinema and their impact on audiences, I just think Middle-earth is better left alone. Like many of you watching this, I grew up reading the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings books with my mum before bed as a kid. They're among the earliest stories that I remember reading, and one of the reasons I developed a love of literature. By the time Return of the King came out, I was 9 years old. I can literally recite at least 50% of the dialogue from the Lord of the Rings trilogy, word for word. That's how many times I've watched them. So these stories and the wider world they exist in represent a lot to me. Fast forward to 2010 when The Hobbit was announced. I was 15 or 16. I retained hope and tried to kid myself, but realistically thought, there's no way they're gonna make me feel like The Lord of the Rings did when I saw them in theatres. What we got in 2012 and 2014 only proved me right, and every time I think of Middle-earth on screen, those films taint what would otherwise be a brilliant interpretation of the world. We also still have another 4 seasons left of the sewage that is Rings of Power. It's hands down the worst adaptation of anything put to screen in the history of shit adaptations. I'm sorry, Wheel of Time fans, I know what they did to Doctor Who, but it doesn't look like Middle-earth, it doesn't sound like Middle-earth, and the characters are nothing like the source material. Honestly, watching the Rings of Power, you'd think someone literally picked up a book written in French and accidentally translated it into English using a Spanish dictionary. Like, the creative decisions just make absolutely no sense whatsoever, and show that the creators didn't give a shit about Tolkien's vision. On top of that, they decided to desecrate one of the most detailed, purposeful, and intentional fantasy worlds ever created by updating it to reflect modern audiences.
Middle-earth had like a club.
Yo, this tune is banging!
Awestruck, mystified, and starstruck.
Wow. Shut your damn mouth!
Its existence leaves a pretty bitter taste in my mouth as far as future on-screen adaptations of Tolkien go. And at this point, it's enough. Just enough.
Enough is enough! I have had it with these motherfucking snakes!
The sad thing is, it's not 1999 anymore. To make Lord of the Rings feel real and grounded, it took 2 years of pre-production. Weta Workshop made 48,000 pieces of armor, 10,000 real arrows, 500 bows, 1,800 orc bodysuits, and 10,000 orc heads. 1,800 pairs of Hobbit feet were used by the 4 lead Hobbit actors alone, and the group of crew members spent 3 entire years linking plastic chainmail together to the extent that their thumbprints wore away. Think about that for a minute. Over 19,000 costumes were hand sewn, and Hobbiton took a year to build as they grew the set from scratch. The height of production saw 2,400 people involved, and CGI was only used to enhance physical prosthetics rather than being the core construct of the world. Warner took a massive risk with Lord of the Rings, and it paid off. Today, however, CGI is the norm, and every studio is trying to build the next MCU in record time. Even Disney is trying to build the next MCU because they f***ed it up so much. So when you consider all of this, can you really trust anything that Warner brings out will be good? Do you really think they can deliver something worthy of our childhood? Because I don't.
It doesn't matter what you think!
And again, you are welcome for that dose of positivity. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you very much for watching. Peace.
Shut your damn mouth!
Y'all need to hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband because they raping everybody out here.
Don't worry, Sam. Rosie knows an idiot when she sees